I'm Sam Laprade. Thank you for joining us. We're so happy that you're here at the Capacity Building Institute. We're going to be talking about how to be an executive director, and we're even going to get more granular than that. We're going to talk about how to start from scratch. Such a great conversation, and thank you so much for so many of you joining me today. We have a lot of great guests for you. You'll want to kind of buckle in. It's going to be a very busy hour. Everyone always at the end says, is it over already? So lots of great information for you. I really want to introduce you to the one and only Rob Barnes. How are you, Rob?
Great, Sam. Thanks for asking.
Thank you so much for being here. Of course, Rob is our executive director, and this is an opportunity, Rob, for you to share a little bit about the Capacity Building Institute.
So at the Capacity Building Institute, I am Rob Barnes, the executive director. So pleased to have you joining us here for tonight's edition, which is how to build an organization from scratch. This is part of the Capacity series, which is a series of free webinars, basically, where we're trying to really strengthen the Canadian environmental community. So who are we at Capacity Building Institute? Well, we are a nonprofit social enterprise, basically working to develop environmental leaders. And what we want to do is train 10,000 leaders of small shop environmental nonprofits within the next 10 years. And you're part of the solution. All the people on the call, we hope you'll engage with us. You already are. And we offer more than webinars, right? We offer a bunch of different training programs, including the Capacity Building Certificate Program, which is really aimed at senior managers and executives. We've got an internship training program, which is aimed at folks just starting out in the sector. We've got mentorship and management training for folks who are kind of developing, kind of learning the ropes. And also something specialized for fundraisers, which I know, Sam, you're an integral part of, which is the Fundraising Intensive Workshop. And then finally, this Capacity Building webinar series. And those there on the left are our 6 core modules. We really look at the governance side to what makes NGOs tick and how can we do better work. So we've got testimonials here. This is David from Algonquin to Adirondacks, which is a fantastic organization working in Ontario and as well as New York. And basically, you know, he took the Capacity Building Certificate Program and helped enhance the capacity of their organization. So I'd recommend that folks check that out and email me if this is something of interest, if you want to train your senior management team. And then on the intern side, here's Hannah saying that the internship training program gave her opportunities to learn about things like grant writing, fundraising, presenting. A lot of us are coming out of school and looking for a start in the sector. The internship training program is a great place to learn the ropes in terms of what makes environmental NGOs tick. So we work on support, we work on governance, and we wrestle with big questions like, how do we do a lot with a little, right? This is the classic nonprofit question that we face. How do we develop leaders in the environmental sector? And how do we strengthen really the backbone of the organizations, which is the governance side of things? So this is, you are here, this is the Capacity series, and we do alternate each month between how to be a board member and how to be an executive director, and we drill deep on specific topics like how to start an organization from scratch. If folks are interested, we do have a suite of amazing trainers drawn from organizations and with certifications in areas like fundraising. So certainly an all-star cast in terms of our team. And we're working with a whole bunch of emerging and current leaders in the sector. And so we do think it could be of interest if you want to join in. Here is our intern mentors for 2022. And we just want to thank our board members and our various partners for helping bring this vision to life and helping us all move forward together. Thanks very much, Sam.
Oh, certainly my pleasure. Thank you so much for that overview. We want to get right into it because once again, we have a very busy time for you today. We want to get the most out of our speakers as possible today, our panelists. I'd like to introduce the one and only Kat Kavanagh. How are you, Kat?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Kat is the founder of Water Rangers. Tell me how this all happened quickly.
Well, I started it in 2015 after seeing my own father frustrated with not being able to share water quality data. And I come from a tech background and entered the aqua hacking competition with the idea of creating data that's open and accessible to everyone. And since then, it's a social enterprise nonprofit, and we develop water test kits, and we have this open data platform and education so that everyone can get involved in water testing.
Well, that's impressive. Thank you so much for sharing. And Aaron Freeman's with us, the one and only Aaron Freeman. How are you, Aaron?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. And of course, founder of GreenPAC. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
So GreenPAC is Canada's organization to build environmental leadership in politics, and it's a bit unique in its focus. We're a nonpartisan organization, and we focus on all of the different parts of the political system to help build leadership within each corner of the political spectrum. We have an internship program that puts young environmental leaders under the age of 30 in the offices of the MPs from each of the major parties that are the most effective at moving the needle on the environment. Those young leaders then go on from the internship program. About more than half of them return as senior staff on Parliament Hill or in provincial legislatures. Some of them, we're only in the 4th year of the program now, but already 3 of our alumni have run for office. One of them is a city councillor in Burnaby. And the others go on to play leadership roles in civil society and in the private sector, the nonprofit sector. So very, very exciting program that we've been steadily growing over those years. We also endorse candidates from all the major parties in elections. And we've also, in the last few years, started a new initiative that organizes nonpartisan all candidates debates, all on the same night, all at the same time across Canada during federal elections. So we did 100 of these, over 100 of these in the 2019 election. It's a bit tougher in the during COVID times, but we still did I want to say 70 in the last federal election. So 70, I can't remember, 76, I think I'm going to say. So yeah, we do a number of different programs. We host events. We have a Future Leaders in Politics Summit every year. We've just hosted the second one of those. We do leadership breakfasts and a whole range of other activities. And the idea is we want to help candidates through the recruitment, nomination, help them get elected, and then get them supported once they get elected.
Wow, that's very impressive. Thanks so much for that rundown. And once again, Kristina Inrig. Sarah, how are you, Kristina?
I'm doing well. I'm hoping you can see me, but it's looking like my camera is not working.
I can't see you, and I'm so sad because you look so pretty in your orange chair today.
I literally tested this out. But anyway, I'll work on that. And in the meantime, just say hello to everybody. I'm glad to be here.
And Kristina, of course, you're the founder of so many things. I think I need to have a nap after reading your bio, but give us a little bit of a rundown.
Sure. Can you still hear me okay? Because my screen sounds like,
yeah.
Anyway, I'll get this sorted out.
Yeah.
So I think today I want to talk more about the work that I helped to support Tucker House when they were forming, as well as Sustainability Ontario. I'm currently over at the Sustainable Capacity Foundation, but I'll focus more on the nonprofits that work that I did to help build those organizations.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And as we said, how to be an executive director, but really sort of how to build that organization from scratch is how we're zeroing in today. And I'm fascinated by this. We heard, of course, from all 3 of our panelists today, just how important the work is. Let me start with you, Kat. When you think about, maybe the top 3 ingredients that you started in terms of your organization, what were the 3 things that were most important?
3 things. I think, a really healthy sense of enthusiasm for what you're doing. I started out as a web designer and developer. I didn't have a lot of background in water science. I've since gotten some of that education. But I was very passionate about helping people and very enthusiastic about what other people were doing. And so a willingness to learn from others. I'm also a huge believer in prototyping. So trying things out and then seeing how they work with real people and then improving them, and being really sort of gentle with yourself that we don't always get things right the first time that we try things. We really need to iterate and improve. And especially if we're dealing with trying to build movements, it's a constant evolution. And I think the third thing is learn your business skills. Learn how to do a budget, learn how to do some HR, some of those other skills that they're not that sexy, but they really, really help you build your team. They really help you make sure that you have a nice, healthy work environment, as well as some stability. So
awesome, great information there, and certainly that foundation is so key. And I think when people think about starting anything, we think about the money. Erin Freeman, how do we manage that big chunk of the cash and the funds we need?
Sorry, nobody got me. No, nobody got to say it. You're on mute. Come on. You're disappointing me. It's the statement of the modern era. Come on. So I should say I'm not an executive director. I've never been an executive director. I'm here in a completely fraudulent manner. I've started up lots of organizations, and I've certainly hired executive directors, but I've never been one, which could be a whole other workshop we could do as to why not to be an executive director. So the money side is really important. I mean, I think we start these organizations with passion, and I think what Kat said about passion is absolutely true. You have to be very, very dedicated to this, because this is going to dominate your life for a while, and you need to have that passion, but you also need to know how you're going to resource it. And in Canada, that's a unique challenge. If we were south of the border, I think a lot of the time we in Canada, we think, well, we've got this great idea, there's a huge problem, and we've got the solution to that problem. We've got the organization that's going to solve that problem. And if we just find a way to tell our story in a really compelling way, and we get lots of attention, lots of media, we'll go viral, and lots of money will just flow in, and we'll raise lots of money in small and medium-sized donations, and it doesn't work. So I just flat out, you've got to accept that in a country that is with a limited population spread out over a huge area like Canada, that's a really, really big challenge. And the number of organizations that have done that successfully is incredibly small. So you've got some choices. I mean, you can have a sugar parent, a sugar mama or a sugar dada. You can be attached to an institution, a high net worth individual, something that's going to, who's somebody or some institution that's willing to put a lot of money into the organization. Or you have some mix of government, foundations, institutions, high net worth individuals, something that's going to give you hopefully some diversity amongst those sources, but a strategy for how to fund your programs. Mm-hmm. And there's challenges with each of those funding buckets that you could choose. But I think, and I'm happy to drill down on some of those, but I would say that is an essential ingredient to starting an organization, to being an executive director. It can't dominate the work that you do. It can't compromise the program work that you do, but you do need a strategy in place in order to deliver those programs effectively.
Great answer. Thank you so much, Erin, for that. And when I think about, the foundation and all the, all the different points that have been brought up so far, Christina, you're great at this. You inspire others to kind of come along on that journey, that passionate journey, and some of the money comes and some of the board members come, and you seem to be able to inspire lots of people. How challenging is that?
Well, I think it is challenging because whenever you're, coming up with a vision for what you're hoping to accomplish, the first thing you have to realize is you can't do it alone, and you really need to work with other people and share your story. And obviously that really does often start with a board of directors and getting other people, whether you're starting a new organization or whether you're refreshing an old one. Working with your board of directors is one of the key challenges that you may have. And so finding those people who catch your vision. And I love what Rena said last month, where she talked about, find people who really care about what it is that you're doing and then bring them alongside to work with you. And that's the first place. It starts with sort of those key volunteers who are going to help your vision. And then what I've been finding lately is, it's not enough just to have really amazing volunteers. It's also really important as you try to grow your initiative to have that really strong team of people around you. And so just figuring out how to find the right people who have a passion to come alongside what you're doing and how to grow those opportunities collectively is a really big challenge.
Oh, it's great information there, and definitely see, Christina inspired me. That's why I'm here. So she inspires a lot of people, which is great. And Kat, we speak about all the fundamentals that are needed. We need that foundation. We need to inspire people. Is there a point in time where you sort of get going and you think to yourself, oh my heavens, what have I done?
I think so, but I hope I'm not the only one that thinks this, that the organization has evolved alongside of me, and so it doesn't get easier because you get more ambitious about what you want to accomplish, and as you grow more capable, some of those opportunities start to emerge. And I was just thinking about what Aaron was saying, that mix. And one of the things that we've done that is different is that we do grant supported projects, but we also sell our water testing equipment, and that gives us a lot of flexibility that a lot of other organizations don't have. And so to build on what Aaron was saying, and like really advocating for a good mix that allows you to have some of that flexibility. So when you get very passionate and excited about a new idea or a new opportunity emerges, that you have a little bit of that unrestricted money that you can jump on it, and you can say, this is an amazing opportunity. This is something that my organization needs to do right now, and to move on it. But I guess your question was more around, I don't know if I knew it was going to be this hard, I don't know if I would have started it. And I think that there is a little bit of ignorance is bliss, but I do really think that it's gotten bigger, and the dream and the vision has gotten bigger as I've grown. And I think, that's probably, I knew the Sustainable Eastern Ontario back in the day, and just seeing these new initiatives and what Christina is trying to build, seeing these new opportunities emerging. It's I don't know if she would have thought that she would be coming this way. I don't know how well you can plan your path, and to me that's actually the most magical thing, that it's even better than how you could have predicted.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you for that. And Aaron, we think about, any organization, you typically have sort of that vision statement, that mission, you think about a strategic plan, all those. Were those challenging to sort of start to assemble in your early days?
Yeah, they were. I mean, we're a bit of a unique organization. There isn't another organization that has this focus and that has this lens through the sort of the problem statement that we're trying to deal with and the solution that we've evolved. So it was a bit new, and it was also a bit, while at the same time it was sort of like, well, somebody's already done this, clearly. Like there's got to be somebody who's out there doing this, and certainly in the US somebody must have done something like this. And it turned out we did a lot of work to figure out that the answer was no. And so there was certainly that, but I mean, any big idea takes a lot of work. You've got to talk to a lot of people. It's not going to be right the first time it manifests itself in your head. And it's also a real challenge to get people passionate about it and to share that vision, even though it's, and to make sure that that vision doesn't become, and I think you were alluding to this, Kat, but make sure that that vision doesn't get so attached to you that limits the growth and the development of the organization. And that's, we have a phrase for that. It's called founder syndrome, and it leads to the death of organizations, and it can lead to a slow death or a quick death, but that is where that leads. So I think that's actually the bigger challenge, but other people may find other things challenging about it. But you got to get that first core of people who, for me, it was, there was somebody I worked closely with in another organization. And, we were out at an event one night, and I just sort of pitched the idea, fully expecting her to say, these are all the reasons why we can't do it. Or this is, this sounds a lot like what somebody else is already doing. We should just pair up with them. And, the reaction was just, yeah, let's do this. Like, and there was just this immediate, like, here, we could do this, and we could talk to this person, we could recruit this person in, and it was just like, I remember just thinking, what am I missing here? Like, they're clearly, like, she obviously doesn't fully understand it because she's too excited about it. So it was, I think that first person you talk to that gets really excited is a really important person.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Especially if they're a doer, if they're somebody who is, you'll have, we talked about boards. I mean, on any board of directors, you're going to have a mix of people who will sit back and they think their job is to criticize. Their job is to sit back and say everything that's wrong with the proposal. And you need a mix of those people. You need a few of those people who are really good at that. But you also need a critical mass of doers, problem solvers. Mm-hmm. And those are you need a greater portion of those at the beginning of the process, because it's that energy and passion that's going to get it off the ground.
For sure. And I mean, none of these organizations are sprints, right? They're all that long marathon. What barriers did you see, Christina, as you were sort of making your way and working on some of these great organizations?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest barrier was, of course, the funding part right from the beginning. So for me, when I was hired to be the executive director at Tucker House, it wasn't my organization, but it was needing to set up a new organization and receive this property and, build a whole new board and make new connections. So, funding was a big challenge from the get-go. Also, like, when you're taking on something that already exists a little bit, unraveling who everybody is and what all their connections are and things like that. When you're starting an organization from scratch, like I was doing with Sustainability Ontario, I was able to build all of that from scratch and figure out, like, how nimble did we want to be, what kind of committees did we want, what structures. With Tucker House, when I started, we had 18 volunteer committees. So you can imagine in 10 hours a week as an ED, it was next to impossible to try to be on all of those committees and actually be effective. So I actually found it easier in a way to be able to say, like, okay, where should we be focusing on with SEO? What structures should we put in place? What priorities? So that was definitely, how to spend my time was really the biggest question, because in most of my roles, I wasn't full-time. Not until recent years have I started taking on positions where I've been the full-time ED. But in my first sort of 10 years as an executive director, I was always cobbling together, 3 different jobs and, doing some stuff for Green and Sacred Spaces nationally and also running Tucker House and this and that. And I guess you could still say I do that all the time as well now. But trying to figure out, how do I spend my time, how to prioritize, that I think is one of the biggest challenges, because when you're the founder, when you're starting something, everything is coming to you. And knowing how to build in other key, stakeholders and players and teammates who can help, make the decisions just as well as you can and be part of the solution, so that everything doesn't only land on your shoulders. I think that's the critical point that I'm working to always be better at.
Mm-hmm. I'm really anxious to find out, Kat, how you define success. How did you measure success in that first couple of years? What kind of sort of benchmarks did you set for yourself?
Well, my first couple of years, I was a little bit like Christina. I worked another job. I I had to work full time elsewhere, and all the money that I got sort of got fed into having sort of part-time staff. And I think the first couple of years, it was how much traction was what I was saying resonating with people. And, you know, you sort of do the regular metrics, but a lot of it was that process of going out and talking to people and finding out what they needed and making sure that I was actually helping them rather than just fulfilling my own needs. Yeah, it took some time. But you know, it wasn't until, I don't know, a few years after I started that we really sort of started to have more structured goals, and it, you know, it was more in the last couple of years that we, as we grew the staff, that it wasn't just me putting every ounce of my energy into helping it move forward and creating that momentum and supporting groups and getting the funding and doing all the things. Now we have to have some of that, some of that sort of traditional structures to support like a bigger team. I don't know if that answers your question, sort of.
Yeah, thank you for that. And this next question is, you know, a little bit vulnerable. Erin, any mistakes that you want to share? Anything we can learn from, things that you would do differently as the founder of GreenPAC?
Oh man, that's do you need like an annotated list, or is it like, how do you want me to organize this?
Do we have enough time?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I made fewer mistakes with GreenPAC than I've made with previous organizations that I've been involved with. But I mean, I think we had a very firm idea of what our value was going to be and how we were going to solve the problem that we were addressing in the beginning. And it was focused primarily on elections. I think we put a lot of weight into endorsements and getting support flowing to a small number of strategic candidates. And we thought that would always be kind of the bedrock of the organization, and we would build things around it. And I think as we progressed, we realized that that strategy, it's still a core strategy of ours. It's one of the three main areas that we focus on. But we also learned that there are tremendous limits to that in terms of what it can accomplish. And we've made big mistakes in every single election that we've engaged in. We're into our 7th one this year, our 6th one, I guess. We missed 1 year. So, you know, like, but more importantly, we also expanded and we took risks, and we opened up other programs that were completely unrelated to that work. And what we found was, you've got to think about it, forced us to rethink our concept of how to develop political environmental leadership, and think of it much more in terms of a circle or a chain of custody almost, where if you're just focused on one little part of it, it doesn't really do very much. It doesn't, you know, there's groups in this country, every once in a while, someone will start a training program for candidates. We need to get more progressive candidates, so we have to train them. And what they always find is very few people show up for that training. And it's from a very, very narrow part of the political spectrum. And the training's fabulous, usually, and they leave feeling very empowered. But if you talk to them a week or 2 weeks or 3 months after the training, it hasn't gone anywhere. And that's because there's nothing to support those candidates. They still have all the same challenges. They're still facing the same uphill battles. They still have just as few resources as they did before they did the training. They still, you know, don't have the kind of networks and resources that people have that they're up against. So I'm just giving that as one example, but we've really changed our thinking very much to think in terms of thinking of this as a chain or as a circle, and you need to be addressing each stage of that process. I think that's probably, I don't think we had a decent understanding of the way political leadership actually gets developed in this country. I don't think I still don't think we've got it, but I think we're getting a much better understanding now than we did in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for that, Erin. And, you know, when I think, Christina, about, just even, not that I started an environmental organization, but started my own business a number of years ago. And there's these gremlins. I don't know if you know, they sort of natter at you and, and tell you you're not good enough. This is never going to work. What do you say to the gremlins, Christina?
Well, it's not just gremlins. It's actually all real people out there.
Yeah, true.
Like your ideas and don't believe in what you're doing. And I've had a few of those even in the last few weeks that have kind of been like, dragging me down a little bit. And at the end of the day, though, I have to believe really firmly in what I'm doing and what I'm spending my life doing, in my vocation, in my passion. And for example, with this concept of the sustainable capacity solutions and all of the social enterprises we've built to really change the landscape of environmental organizations across Canada, and that we're working together to help with everything from bookkeeping to training and all of these other great services to help small shops across the country. I really, really believe in it. And I really believe in capacity building and the work that we're doing. And I just have to, come back to that and remember that, my heart is in the right place. What I'm trying to do is help small shops get started, be successful, have solidarity, all the stuff that Erin was just talking about, having networks, having people around them. That's exactly what we're trying to build. And so I think that at some point we have to also just let go of not only our own negative thoughts, but also I talk about focusing where the energy is. If you've got someone who's just going to complain constantly and never be alongside and be excited about what you're doing, I tend to move away from focusing on working with a person like that and focus on people who, I'm not saying I won't work with anyone who's negative. I just mean, there are sometimes you're never going to win with certain people. They're never going to catch your vision or excitement. And so I focus on where there's energy, where there's a willingness to collaborate, where there's a willingness to learn and to come together and to share ideas and to build, the kinds of change that we want to see in the environmental sector in Canada. So I also don't be afraid of it, because there's no question that there's going to be naysayers out there. There's going to be people who don't like what you're doing. There's going to be people who don't believe in what you're doing. So just accept that as a fact, and then focus on, not spending all your energy in that kind of life draining way, but focus on life giving and how we can be collaborating and working with people who also really care and who are also trying to make a difference.
Would it be wrong if I stood up and cheered? Would that be wrong? No. Appreciate that, Christina. We're going to do 2 rounds of lightning round. How does that sound? So Kat, you're first up. Really quickly, just tell me what book or webinar, or sort of what was a resource you'd like to share today that made a difference in your success?
This is going to be a little bit, it's a really old book and a little bit old school, but The Magic of Thinking Big. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's got some terribly old examples, but it talks a lot about what Christina was just saying. And it's a really great book. Okay, great. And same question for you, Erin. What book, webinar, what resource inspired you?
Oh, geez, I don't know. Well, I mean, I can say, this is not a GreenPAC inspiration, but going back further, I mean, I definitely took some inspiration from when I was first doing my community organizing, when I first got started out doing environmental work, doing community organizing work, all of the work that the Ralph Nader organizations were doing, and a lot of the work inspired by people like Saul Alinsky. Those were huge inspirations in terms of just that notion of those early notions of empowerment, those early notions of learning that you can make a difference in the world. I mean, those have carried me through all the projects that I've done.
Amazing. And Christina? Book, webinar, movie, anything inspired you?
Resource? Yeah, 2 I would recommend. One is The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist. Just a really great way to rethink how we fundraise and partner with donors. And I just love that book. I give it out as gifts all the time. And also Good to Great, which I think is Jim Collins. And it's just like an incredible way to kind of figure out what's my niche, what am I focused on, what's the economic engine driving it, and how do I make it happen? So those are 2 that I would definitely consider.
And I think those 2 are on that bookshelf right there. So that's great. Another quick lightning round. If you had to sort of point to one person that kind of kept you going, or somebody that has kind of keeps you on track, we're going to start with Erin this time. Erin, who's that person?
So I've already talked about her. It's Laurie Simmons from Green Living, and she was really the first person the first co-conspirator, and it was just that, like, she's a doer. She really knows how to get things done. She knows how to problem solve and how to get to the destination. So she was really, and she's continued to be a supporter to this day, and she was on our board for many years. I think she's just inspirational.
Excellent. We'll go back to you, Kat. Who's somebody that has kept you going?
Well, my co-founder, he's also my husband, but Ollie, he is a web developer, and I'm an okay web developer, but I come up with it and he makes it happen. He's an amazing designer as well. And, just in the ups and downs of this crazy existence and all the risk I take on, he's right by my side. So definitely, yeah.
And Christina, who's part of your army?
Yeah, I was going to say my husband also, he really puts up with a lot with me and all the crazy things that I do. So he's the real superpower behind my work, I would say. But my friend Barb King is so incredible, keeping me in check. Telling it like it is, not being afraid to call me out on certain things. She's been incredible. And I'm so fortunate this year to have an amazing leadership council of people that are helping to lead these different social enterprises that I'm involved in. Rob Barnes is on that team, Hannah Rockford on that team, many other people who you've heard from through the series. And we collaboratively work together to try to take this vision to the next level. So I am thrilled to be able to say that we have that group working together.
Fantastic. And I have to say, I'm already impressed. There's questions coming in already as we sort of transition now from my questions to questions from our participants. And I'd like to start with this one. And this is from Kimia. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. I'd love to hear more on why not be an ED, as Erin was sharing. As well, Kat also mentioned she doesn't know if she would have started what she did when she knew all the work. Curious about determining whether you're actually the right fit for an ED and how to found organizations, initiatives without being the ED. Let's start with you, Erin.
So I thought that I wanted to be an ED. So I was a consultant for years. I am now, and I was a consultant for years in Ottawa. And after about 7 or 8 years of being a consultant, I figured, well, I want to play a bigger role in the sector, and I want to be part of a team, and I want to be helping make things happen in a more visible way. And I had sort of made that decision, and I was in the running for 2 positions. And I was the runner-up on one of them, and I was in the shortlist on another one. And only in hindsight, thank God, thank God I didn't get the jobs. And I don't just say that, as a way of justifying how they didn't hire me or whatever. Because my next job was actually working for one of the large national environmental organizations as part of the management team, not as the executive director. And it made me realize that I certainly don't need to be an executive director to do the kinds of things that I want to do. And the need, I think if you want to be an executive director, you want to be doing them for the right reasons. And I think one of the other questions actually touches on this. If you want to do this for ego, you're in the wrong business. I think you need to do a lot of searching for what that's going to look like and what needs it's going to meet in you, and have a really good understanding of what the job looks like. How much of the job, and this is a good question to ask the organization, how much of your role is going to be around fundraising? Because usually it's more than half, and often it's way more than half. And if that's how you want to spend your time, then you're going to have to be very driven to do that. And if you're driven by ego, it's not going to work. Yeah, Kat, Sam, you're smiling, but it's just, that is a recipe for burnout, failure, disaster, whatever you want to call it. So also have a really good understanding of the job can be a lonely job. And they say that and it's a cliche, but it's true in a lot of senses. There aren't a lot of people in your organization that are going to understand what you do. And even the best of the employees that you have probably won't understand deeply what it is that you do. And there aren't going to be a lot of people that are going to understand what you're going through on some days.
Mm-hmm.
So I think having a really good understanding of what it is to be an executive director, and I don't hate the notion of being an executive director, and I might be one someday, but it's not something I'm particularly looking for a bunch of reasons, and it's functional right now. I mean, the best place for me to be in this organization is where I am. Where I can do lots of fundraising for the organization, where I can provide links and support to the organization in the other roles that I'm playing. So I don't need to be an executive director, and it doesn't make sense for me to be an executive director on a whole bunch of levels. So I think just having that understanding is really important of what's driving you and what is the job really about.
Thank you, Erin. I appreciate that. And I know, Kat, some of this was directed at you as well. Do you have any thoughts on the part in particular where they talk about, would you have started what you did if you knew about all the work and determining whether you are the right fit?
I think it's, the reason I stuck with it and continue to do what I do is because I really do believe in what we're trying to accomplish. But my background is in design and technology, and I spend a very surprising, well, probably not that surprising to other executive directors, but a very small amount of my time actually doing the thing that I started doing it for. So to design these experiences for people is actually a very small part of what I do day to day. What Erin was talking about, worrying about money, fundraising, paperwork, staff management, all those sorts of things help drive what you want to accomplish forward. And I didn't realize, I think you can read books about it and whatnot, but until you've actually done it yourself, you're like, oh, the responsibility is on me. My other people's livelihoods are on me and doing my best work, making sure that, I'm an example for what we're trying to accomplish, that I'm nurturing leadership in my staff so that they can help bring the movement forward. So there's a lot of components that I didn't necessarily sign up for in the first place. It wasn't the reason why I wanted to do what I was doing. But at the same time, it is very, very, it has been very rewarding in the sense that I've learned a lot, and it's really, really cool to see the evolution of what you've been sort of managing. And in that sense, having a little humility to realize that you don't know it all to start with, and it really is a journey that you're on to do your best every day, and just to make sure that you're thinking of the mission and the humanity of the whole thing. It's I don't know if that makes sense, but the journey itself and what you learn is so much different than I think what most people would expect when they come into it. I'm sure Christina has some things to say about that.
Absolutely. Appreciate that so much. I want to make sure we get to everything today. We've got a little bit of a time at the end to close off. I want to make sure that I have the opportunity to introduce Anna today. Anna's with the Canadian Environmental Network. I'd like to welcome her now. Hi, Anna.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.
Right, so I've got a little presentation on the Canadian Environmental Network for those that are here. So I'm the program director, but I also work for ECO Executive Director. Let me just pull it up here. Right, so I'm excited to be presenting. And so I want to talk about who we are very quickly, what we do, how we can collaborate, and welcoming you to join the network. So we've actually been around since 1977, and we work around the motto that we do better work when we work together. So we're nonpartisan, non-for-profit network of environmental organizations, environmental leaders. We've also got a few businesses and our affiliate networks. And our mission is to support sustainable policy through public participation. So what we do is we act as a bridge between grassroots environmental groups and the federal government. And I'll explain a little bit more on how we do that. So as a network, we provide opportunities to contribute to policy, and this is to help fulfill Canada's mandate on transparency and consultation. We enhance collaboration among some environmental groups so that we can work more effectively, minimize duplication of efforts, and really make sure that we're working as a larger front on these environmental issues. And we also increase visibility and voices from these local groups for consultations that include all elements of our society. So how we do this is we provide opportunities for environmental groups, environmental individuals to participate in federal government consultations, and as well as delegates in UN events. We connect environmental groups with one another when you join our network, and we invite you to join, but also to create or to lead a caucus as well. So I'll explain a little bit about our caucus system. So at the moment, we've got 3 caucuses. In the past, we've had many, many more, and we're working on building these caucuses again. So we've got our Environmental Planning and Assessment Caucus, which at the moment works with the Impact Assessment Agency of Canada on a multi-year contract where members consult on areas such as gender-based analysis, sustainability, and how to meet Canada's environmental obligations and commitments. We've got our Biodiversity Caucus, which is working on the Convention on Biological Diversity. And we just had representatives working on the convention in the consultations in Geneva last week. And finally, our Sustainable Development Goals Caucus is working on taking these international and domestic commitments and bringing them into the local level through consultation. In a few of the areas that we've contributed to in the past and currently, the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Chemicals Management Act, the Canadian Environmental Protection Act, the Impact Assessment Act, and we've petitioned for information on Canada's progress on the SDGs to the Auditor General of Canada. Now we welcome organizations from small to large. Like I mentioned, it's really important to have your voice heard in within the federal government. So our memberships run anywhere from $15 a year to $100 a year. And but I mention this every time I speak to organizations. We don't want that to be a barrier to joining our network. So reach out. We're happy to make these connections, you know, whether you're a member or not. It's all really important. And I did want to flag, we're working on a contract with Health Canada at the moment on Clean Air Day. This year, we are looking at the intersections between air quality, climate change, and our health. So we are featuring organizations that are doing really interesting work around these themes and blasting them all over social media. And this is a great way for members of the government as well to be able to see the great work that environmental NGOs are doing around these topics. So we invite you to reach out. We would love to feature you if you're working on any of these things, to have your profile on our network. So yeah, so I invite you to join us. The more the merrier. We've been working really hard to build our network. The environmental network was actually defunded in 2011, and we've been working really hard to build it back up again. So you're welcome to email us at info@rcen.ca or check out our website at rcen.ca. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anna. I appreciate your opportunity today to spend time with us and share all that great information. We know we couldn't do these without the support of sponsors like you, so thank you very much. We have one question that's still in that Q&A, and I definitely want to get to this one. We touched on it a little bit. It's a great question from Emily. It's an executive director or founder. Does your ego get in the way? And how do you keep it in check? And we heard a little bit already from Aaron, but I'd love to find out, Christina, what do you think? How do you keep this in check?
Well, I think if you asked my husband, he would have a different answer. And the other day I was like so fired up with ideas, and I was like, really, I said to everybody, just so you know, I'm on a real high horse today. I'm just like so excited, and I want to pull everybody into these projects. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important that we, like what Kat was saying earlier about remembering the humanity of our work, and that, you know, I think of this work as an act of service in the community. And so from that point of view, I really hope that I don't let my ego get in the way. And at the same time, you also want to have confidence. Like, I also want to be sure that, you know, like I'm a boss. And so some of the work that I'm doing is about building capacity and bringing people into leadership positions. And so we want to also celebrate and not be afraid of that too. So yeah, I think for me, some people would say I have a little bit of an ego, and I definitely try to tone it down and remember that when I started, you know, one of the ways that I always think about is like when I started at Tucker House, you know, as an executive director, just out of my undergrad, like I didn't know anything about how to run an organization, like literally nothing. And I had to Google like basic questions about, you know, organizational status. So, you know, I can't, you know, when someone is coming out of their schooling and starting up as an intern and just trying to learn the ropes, like, you know, we always have to remember that we all came from a place of learning, and we've been built into our roles by the people who really helped us. In fact, Sam Laprade here was one of the people I met early in my career at a volunteer Ottawa workshop when I was there as the only environmental person in the room, learning about fundraising, and Sam was the trainer. And so, you know, I think we just, you know, what I always try to think about is how we always need to be learning. We're never at the height of anything in the sense of like we've learned it all. There is never a time in my career where I can't continue to learn and grow and get better. And so that's important. And then there's this balancing act between having the confidence to believe in your dreams and to go after it, but also try not to be like a total, you know, I don't know how to word this politely on air, but you know, be kind and be calm and be loving to the people around you. That's what I would say.
Yeah, beautiful advice there. We have, well, about 4 or 5 minutes left. I want to make sure we get to this. It's a great question, and certainly something that I've experienced as well in my career, and that is founder syndrome. And I can't even remember. I think it was Aaron that mentioned this, but the question comes from Michelle. I'd like to hear more about founder syndrome that was mentioned, and she's in the role of an executive director as well. Aaron, anything you'd like to share here?
Yeah, and it's connected to the last question. I mean, I look, a lot of the people who have big ideas and who have passion have huge egos. And, you know, if you're one of those people, that's okay. Like I don't think it's realistic to just say, well, don't have any ego. But I think, you know, to Kat's point, have some awareness around it. And, you know, it's, you know, you can say, well, have some humility around it too, but like, ask yourself some real questions. Like the executive directors that we've hired at Greenpack, where we've hired our second one a couple of years ago. like they're better at it than I am. Like there's like, you can have vision and passion and you can have all kinds of skills, but like no person has more than, I don't know, 15 or 20% of the skills you need to make these ideas happen and grow. So like understand how your skills and your passion dovetails with some of the things you don't have, and some of the things like, do you really think that just because you've got this great idea and you've made it happen, that you're the best person to run it? And if you do you really think that you're, like, it's asking those kinds of questions, regardless whether you're the founder or not. But I mean, I think that's a big part of it. Like if the growth and development of the organization is constrained to the growth and development of one individual or even a few of them, like that organization will forever be constrained.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I worked for an organization and, the founder syndrome was very strong, let's put it that way. And it was, it can be difficult for people coming in to not feel welcome, or even, new ideas, fresh ideas, if they're, if they're not sort of welcomed or
not given the space. They don't have the space, right? The space is all taken up.
Yeah. So it can definitely be challenging. I have learned so much every single time I participate in these, and I get to ask all the questions, so most of the questions, which is always a great place to be, but I always learn something. And I want to thank Aaron Freeman, obviously Kat Kavanagh and Kristina Inrig very much for being here. And of course for Anna as well from the Canadian Environmental Network for supporting our day. And, this is just one, as we know, of one of these seminars. We do them every single month. They switch back and forth, how to be a board member, how to be an executive director. And certainly from my perspective, it's, we've always welcomed in sometimes people that have been here before and brand new faces. It's certainly a pleasure to spend time with you. I'm Sam Laprade from City News, but also a fundraising consultant. And this is where I learn lots of stuff from all of you. So a big thank you to all of you. Big thank you as well to Rob Barnes for keeping us all together, and for Hannah as well. Thank you for being here, everyone. I hope you have a safe night.
Thanks so much, Sam. Really appreciate it. And if I hadn't stolen Rob's chair because my computer wasn't working, I would have had him come on to just remind folks that our May 9th session is also going to be an incredible event, and we'll be talking about how to be a board chair. And really want to start digging into some of these practical topics around board membership, as well as, like today, some different ED topics to really help people learn how to build and grow their organizations. So please join us on May 9th. You can register on our website, capacitybuilding.ca, and we'll hear from some incredible board chairs that I know who are going to share how they've done it and what role they play.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
See you next month.